Well, I'm Nicholas Fell, or Nick Fell, and we're here at the Sword and Rose in San Francisco, a metaphysical supply shop. It's been here since 1985, and we're in Coal Valley. But getting into myself personally, I read cards here, and I use the Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot. It was done in the mid 1940s. And it's a really nice deck. It's very colorful and modern looking, but at the same time ancient, so it gives a kind of a timeless vibe to the deck. And a man and a woman put it together. Aleister Crowley came up with the framework, and Frida Harris did the paintings. But anyway, we're here to, we're a metaphysical supply shop. That's the name that Randy David always wanted us to mention about the shop, and it's a metaphysical healing shop that caters to many different pantheons, which are belief systems in the world. We Native American, Egyptian, Christian, Pagan, the fairy realm, some Greek, some Indian, some Santeria. So we're all over, and it's about healing and stuff. So and a lot of times the shop kind of runs itself, and people come in and magic just happens, and people meet who they're supposed to meet. And we're mostly known for the richly blended incense and oils here in the shop. And I guess you could say we're kind of Gnostic, which is kind of it's kind of like sort of the belief system of the Knights of the Round Table, where it was a morph between the pagan and the Christian. You still kind of acknowledge the one God, but you acknowledge also the nature spirits and the phases of the moon, the time of, of the seasons. And like I said before, we're mostly known, we're world renowned for our ritually blended incense and oil here in the shop, done in ritual ceremony, phases of the moon. And we have just got probably the best tarot deck selection in the city right now, and a great book selection, great jewelry. And the people who order, Tina and Crystal here, get the perfect thing that everyone seems to always want here, so we're kind of lucky that they have an intuitive feel for that. Even though we are eclectic, we've always had kind of a heavy leaning on Egyptology and the Egyptian pantheon. We all feel like we were in past lives in Egypt, and we're meeting again. So, but yeah, it's a one-of-a-kind place. Part of magic and growing spiritually and becoming a better person is acknowledging that, we all need help with some form of something in our lives, and being humble and acknowledging that's the first step in correcting it and moving on. And also the allowing of all the different belief systems to coexist, and realize it's all about healing in the heart. And there's different customs and ideologies, but that it's really all about the heart, and love is the biggest important thing, and the Holy Grail. And I can't state the different images enough. We have ritual swords here as well. Everyone who works here reads and does divination and stuff. So, I just, for funsies, I pulled a card about the interview going, and I got Six of Cups, Sun and Scorpio. It's called Pleasure. So can't get better than that. I also want to reference a really cool book written in 1927 by Manly Palmer Hall called Secret Teachings of All Ages, which is the Hermetic, Kabbalistic, Rosicrucian, and Celtic encyclopedia of magic. And it basically traces the magical history and gives credit to some of the people who are unsung heroes. It's just another belief system of trying to heal people and have peace in the world. So that was the beginning in the mid to late 90s, when I saw the kind of switch to where paganism, the occult, and witchcraft and mysticism kind of like moved up. And in some senses now it's almost as big and respected as like traditional religions at this point.
Right. Well, I'm Tina from the Sword and Rose in San Francisco, and I think one of the biggest things is that, talking about paganism, is that is such a broad term. Paganism is kind of a huge umbrella term for a bunch of different religions, and for a long time it just meant any religion outside of like the main three: Christianity, Judaism, Muslim. Anything else was pagan. So if you go simply by that, you have a lot of different traditions to go by. And for myself, you know, I grew up in a Christian church, and I started realizing that that wasn't for me. First thing I, you know, started looking into was Wicca, because there's a lot of information on that. Found out later, still wasn't quite right for me, and I started looking around for something and found I was going to acupuncture, so I learned some Buddhist practices. Moving to San Francisco, I learned about a lot of different Indian and Hindu practices. But then I found for myself Hermetics and Kabbalah, which is ceremonial magic. And that called more to me, and it was something that also fit. I could understand with my roots with Christianity, and my father being a Christian scholar at the time. A lot of the history I learned growing up fell into those things, and I could understand them. I still practice a little bit of Italian witchcraft, which is kind of head witchery, or things that has to do with herbs and spices and potions and things like that. And everything else is very, like I said, ceremonial, and so I do ritual, and I even have created my own practices and writing my own books on different practices. So, you know, the things that I got connected to were Kabbalistic and Hermetic magic. Hermetic is, easiest way to put it, is ancient Egyptian alchemy. And ever since I was young, I was really connected and very drawn to Egypt and studying Egypt and Egyptology and the gods especially. I remember when I was 8 and just seeing a statue of Anubis and going to the Rosicrucian Museum in San Jose and just falling in love with everything there and feeling very drawn to it. So when I got older and started learning Hermetics, which incorporates all of the Egyptian pantheon and Egyptian ideas, it just really called to me. And Kabbalah, which is simply put, again, there's a lot of information you can go on this, but ancient Judaic mysticism and the idea that, you know, all things are kind of connected, and there is, you know, the Hermetic Kabbalah, which is what I practice the most of at the moment. With that is also what the tarot was based on. If you look at the history of a lot of the tarot, it was based in Hermetic and Kabbalistic ideas. And so now that I read tarot and have that information and that knowledge behind it, reading has made a whole lot more sense in that way for me. And so I was asked to kind of, you know, show my deck, and everyone who works at the shop uses a different deck, and many people you will find there's hundreds and hundreds of decks out there, and people find which one works best for them. This one is one that my mom bought for me, and as soon as I opened it, I didn't need to read the book. I just knew what the cards said without even having to think on it. I just looked at it and was able to see it. So I'm gonna pull one for you. So I get the Mother of Earth, the Birth card, and this is about new beginnings. And I think this is very telling for the way of the world right now, is we're heading into a new birth for the world and for everything going on right now. And I think this is just a reminder that we can, you know, connect to Mother Earth, connect to the manifestation that she has for us, and, you know, take care of her is a really big thing, and love her for who she is. yeah, so I think that's, powerful message for everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Patrick Michael. My partner and I started the Sword and Rose December 13th, 1985, and this is our 36th year, and I've been asked to expound on spirituality and the various aspects of what that is that fall, I guess, outside of what people would call normal, established, organized religion, which is a rather gigantic umbrella of a whole bunch of ways of looking at human spirituality. I endorse all of it, including all of the established, as well as all the alternatives and everything in between, because every single person has their own spiritual path, and all paths eventually kind of lead to the same place, which is the source, or whatever, from whence we came. And depending upon how we were raised and what kind of belief systems we were indoctrinated with, that we bought into or didn't buy into. And if we didn't buy into them, then maybe we have something more easy to express and discover our own. If we bought into it, it takes a little while to unwind that if it doesn't work for us, and we look for something that resonates better. Catholic, the word pagan, I find very unusual that people would describe that particular word from Catholicism as a label to wrap themselves in. Pagan in the Catholic religion means someone who is not baptized, and therefore they will never go to heaven or hell. They go to a land of limbo. In our store and in my heart, I think that the best way is to try to help everybody find their spiritual path, to find out that part of them that came into the world this time around to learn something and to express some gifts that they've been given to the world that they need to endorse and nurture and grow in so that it can be shared for the betterment of everyone, including themselves. And the only way to find that is to quiet down and go within. All the answers lie within. If you listen to yourself and you listen to your heart and don't get mixed up in that level of distraction, keeps us away from coming within ourselves and actually feeling what spirit is about. And that's the important thing to realize, is that much of what is programmed in all of our societies is about distracting us from our own spiritual connection of what we are in the world and how to express ourselves. And the tools that we have in the shop, whether it's incenses and oils or literature or anything that helps you expand your mind and connect with something that makes sense, is your way of finding your way. And a lot of people come in, they want to know about, does this stone do this, and does this incense connect me with this, and so on and so forth. And a lot of people, they're so curious and they want power, so they're going to go and take a whole bunch of things and learn how to do this so they can make this happen in the world, and so on and so forth. And all, of course, that's just garbage and ego and wanting to take over and do something because you have something that somebody else doesn't have. Wrong way to do it, and you will be a flop, because the prime fall of man is ego, and if you think you're better than anyone else, that's usually when you fall down. So what we try to do is to help people find their way, and in the process, they are humbled into understanding how difficult everyone's path is in terms of really being able to do the work. And once they do the work, they tend to wake up to the fact that it's not that easy for themselves, it's not that easy for everyone else. But if you go within, you will find that it works, and you do get better, and you do feel better because you go find yourself and know what your expression is supposed to be. If you're trying to play around with a whole bunch of stuff that makes no sense to you and you're not connected with, it's not going to be fun. And I like to say that the path of life is following your joy, following your happiness. And if you find what really makes you happy and you pursue that, then you're living your life path. If you're miserable and disgusted, change something. It's relatively simple.